This show is proudly sponsored by TraderCobb.com, the leaders in checklist-based trading strategy. Yes, that's exactly how it sounds. I'll teach you a literal checklist so you can tick off items and be decisive very quickly. Get across to TraderCobb.com where there's a bunch of free content there for you to have a look at. And of course, if you're interested in having me come to your city, click and register for the live events coming up and filling fast. Have a great day. Visit TraderCobb.com now.
The Trader Cobb Crypto Show, talking business in blockchain.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TraderCobb Crypto Show. Today's guest is a returning guest again because I speak with people that are doing things and have opinions that I respect. It is Anouk Pinchetti, who is also an educator out there in the space, working very much closely with blockchain technology. That's where he sort of specializes in, less on the trading side of things, more on the technology side of things. So thank you so much for your time once again, Anouk.
Thanks, Craig. It's great to be back. I remember our last chat well.
Yes, we have lots of them, and it's a pleasure always speaking with you. So look, let's, I guess we just kick off with what you're doing at the moment, because I know you've been working in and around the crypto asset space for a while now, and we've seen a lot change recently, and not just from a price perspective as well. You know, people think when we talk about change, it's just from the price, but we've seen some big players come in, we've seen some attitudes change. What have you been working on that's really sort of pushing you forward at the moment?
So my main focus at the moment is putting a lot of the live face-to-face presentations I've been doing into online content through a new website. Started up newsystemstraining.com.
Cool.
But in terms of the change of everything that was happening, basically a lot of it was always predictable, right? 2,000 coins coming up out of nowhere. The majority of them never had any fundamental value proposition, and they were always going to go to zero. And then, of course, the fact that regulation was going to come in and tighten up some of the on-ramps and off-ramps and make it, you know, a bit more challenging for people. Of course, what that's meant is that now it's not people doing ICOs anymore based on a wing and a prayer and some vague idea of some future ideological fantasy. It's security token offerings and initial exchange offerings that are a lot more conservative in nature, that pretty much do something we're doing today a little bit better around some ways of doing things. So that's a big part of the shift, and we're seeing a lot of the big players come in to try and streamline their operations, as opposed to, you know, back alley startups trying to disrupt A or disrupt industry X and that side of things. So I think Libra, you know, Facebook coming out with their white paper is a perfect case in point for, you know, the big players are entering the market. And there's a fun sort of analogy I read the other day, which was the difference between explorers, pioneers, and settlers. Right, so you've got your explorers that go out and they discover something new. Thank you, Satoshi Nakamoto. And then you've got your pioneers that go in and they're, you know, getting their hands dirty and trying to build things and make their way in what is a, you know, brave new frontier, and they're making up the rules as they go along. So it's a lot of chaos, a lot of fallout, hard life, but of course there's a promise of great rewards for people who find something worth doing. And then of course you can recognize them by the arrows sticking out of their backs, as the saying goes, and then they get replaced by the settlers, right? And the settlers are coming in, and they don't need some brand new idea or some new gadget. They need infrastructure. They need stuff that scales, and they need stuff that's easy to use. and ultimately that's sort of who we're seeing come in at the moment, right?
And who
Yeah.
are we like additional to? I like the analogy too. Very good. The obviously Facebook is the most prominent. It's been the best advertisement for, I guess, legitimacy of the space and the technology, to some degree, and just people being able to recognize that this is something and it's not going to go anywhere. Really, really good advert. So that was great, Mr. Zuckerberg. But what other companies are you seeing at the moment? Because I know that you sort of work on that level a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more than what I do. So what other companies and what other entrants are you seeing that sort of fit that, I guess, settlers mode?
So, well, basically in Australia, we've had the Commonwealth Bank has been doing a lot of projects to basically streamline their operations. There's a lot of projects out of the Netherlands where they've been experimenting with, whether it is possible to run the economy, the whole financial infrastructure on a blockchain, infrastructure. So that the payments and settlements layer be cryptocurrency based effectively. So basically, since the start of this whole adventure in 2009, lots of governments have put a lot of pilots and early stage projects out there. And, Dubai is the most obvious with
I was
their
about to say
commitment
Dubai.
to taking it forward. And I think that's, they're progressing on that, as is Estonia, so for me, it's really the fact that governments are getting in behind it. The ASX is getting in behind it, right? The regulation is much tighter now. So the fact that we're seeing a bit of a resurgence in the price, I think is interesting, because it also, this time around, the technology is a lot more mature, the regulation is a lot more mature. People have a far better idea of what their tax implications are, and a lot of the bigger companies that were knocking on my door sort of 2 years ago, that disappeared and went really quiet, they're knocking on the door again, but they're asking far better questions this time around. And that's the difference that I'm noticing.
Look, I'm finding the same thing right now when it comes to my area of expertise, which is the trading derivatives and the trading side of it. There was a time where we have different things that we can do with different exchanges and different content models and that sort of thing, and we were trying to trump up business, and it was hard work. The strategy was sound, the delivery was fine, it sort of worked, and I've done this in other traditional markets as well. We've got a couple. But now they're knocking on our door, which is great, because they got a chance then. Well, now they're coming back to me, which means that I hold the cards this time. Makes it much easier to negotiate in that sort of experience, in that sort of position, and I'm enjoying it. So, I mean, from your point of view, you're much more on the technology side as to how you can implement blockchain technology to streamline businesses and different parts of their businesses. For someone like you, is there a lot of opportunity out there right now, or is it just starting to come back from a consultant sort of point of view?
It's starting to come back. There's been a lot of people got very enthusiastic in 2017, and they lost that enthusiasm over 2018. But it's starting to come back, especially with this whole Libra type thing.
And being above 5 figures all of a sudden.
Yeah. I've got a lot of people coming back and just, asking for that cup of coffee or the initial consulting session to see how people can get their organizations ready to implement something.
Yeah.
As opposed to, just tell me what this thing is and how it works.
Yeah, so the questions are improving, the opportunities are starting to arrive. And is it new systems training?
New systems training, correct.
So is that about helping people to understand how they can consult to business? What is that? Tell me about that.
So new systems training, the idea is to help businesses transition into using blockchain technologies. So there is, there's a sort of an introductory, very basic introductory course to the average punter to how to use crypto, how to set up your wallet, how to keep your keys safe, all the questions I end up getting asked after I talk to people about, the philosophical side of decentralized governance. There's always somebody who just wants to know how to buy some Bitcoin, and that's all, right? So that is an introductory, but most of it is, here is the blockchain development lifecycle. Here is what happens when you need to take into account all the different stakeholders within your industry and within your supply chain, and to coordinate and to be able to make sure that what you're building integrates with the existing systems, and all those concerns from a tech side that tend to get glossed over. A lot of people that are pushing blockchain for supply chain, for instance, seem to really brush over. They say, well, now everybody's trying to get all these systems to integrate with each other, but once you have a blockchain, that solves everything, because that's where the data is. But that's just not the reality of it.
The reality is a very different thing, right?
Absolutely. Well, the reality is, no. You add a blockchain and you've just got one more piece of integration that everybody's got to do. And you're never going to store all your data in, something that everybody keeps a separate copy of, because that's just not an efficient way of doing it.
So what sort of target market? I mean, obviously you're out there relatively new. The website you said it was new. I mean, what sort of businesses are you targeting first and foremost that could probably have the biggest bang for buck, so to speak, when it comes to a consultancy point of view and how to implement blockchain technology to either shave costs, increase efficiency, or whatever it may be? What sort of businesses do you see as the best to take advantage right now?
The larger corporates at the moment, because they've got tech teams that need some upskilling, and they need to get their head around how this works. They've got established relationships with long supply chains, and they have the most to gain from implementing some business process automation ultimately in that space. I think it's far more efficient for these organizations to upskill their in-house teams and potentially do a little bit of outsourcing of some of the development, but not of the majority of the solution design, because they know their business and they know their supply chain better than any outfit in India or Afghanistan is going to know what their industry needs or wants.
And I mean, look, I had a executive at Commonwealth Bank I used to speak to quite frequently, and a number of years back now, he was talking, because I asked him about what he thought of blockchain when I started to get into it in July of 2017. He was saying that I think they were using it for clearing across their London and Sydney. They've been using it for quite some time. Obviously, a centralized platform. I mean, does that mean that companies like that are much more interested in integrating in other areas of the business, or because they've already had a success somewhat within their own organization?
Yes, I won't say I have a really it's more anecdotal than representative. So I was getting a lot of people 2 years ago, POC, MVP, where they've been successful and they've been trialing something on the side that doesn't affect core business. Some of these companies are coming back and they're going, okay, now how do we apply it and roll it out across different systems now? And they're coming back and looking at implementing it still piecemeal. So far, I have not come across anyone ready to take the approach of the ideological startups and go, we're going to change the entire business process, and rather than having a centralized controlled supply chain, we're going to open it up and every level is going to be a marketplace of its own. It's going to be all peer-to-peer. None of that. It's, hey, if we put this on a blockchain, we save a little bit of cost. If we track, a bill of lading electronically, and it's got consensus along it, that actually saves us a little bit of cost here, saves us a little bit of cost here, automates that there, and it means you have a lot of costs saved also in the audit and compliance space. I've had a lot of questions about that recently, actually.
Well, it's quite interesting to understand, like from big business's point of view, the landscape has changed. I also think from a retail point of view, that more your executive types that are investing, I think their perspectives change as well. Bitcoin didn't die. Blockchain didn't die. It has come back. Facebook's legitimized it, like I said before. And there definitely does seem to be less of a, haha, you're a Bitcoiner, you're an idiot, and more of a, oh, okay, well, how do I find out more about that? But definitely seeing the appetite picking up, and it's really good to see people like you with a different set of skills to what I have out there, looking to help people to understand how to do it within their business, but also to help them with everything that they need in their actual how to do this, little things and bits and pieces. So can you tell us where we can find out more about what you're doing, how to keep track of what's going on, and if anybody's interested in getting involved, for whether it be a business they're involved in or something more of a they want to learn about blockchain and how they can, I guess, be a consultant?
Yep. So feel free to, my apologies. Feel free to, anyone feel free to reach out to Anouk Pinchetti on LinkedIn. That's, I'm fairly responsive to any inquiries up there. Also, you can find me on newsystemstraining.com. And there's also a link to Thinkific on there, where I've got my online content. And if you simply write to Anouk at New Systems Training or contact me on LinkedIn, then we can start a conversation about what you need and how I can help.
Absolutely wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. Anouk Pinchetti, thank you so much for your time, mate. I look forward to speaking to you again in the future, and I wish you all the best going forward in this wonderful new world with a very different appetite from the outside world. So good luck. More to come from you, I'm sure. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Craig. Have a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. Bye for now. This show is proudly sponsored by TraderCobb.com, the leaders in checklist-based trading strategy. Yes, that's exactly how it sounds. I'll teach you a literal checklist so you can tick off items and be decisive very quickly. Get across to TraderCobb.com, where there's a bunch of free content there for you to have a look at. And of course, if you're interested in having me come to your city, click and register for the live events coming up and filling fast. Have a great day. Visit TraderCobb.com now.